Hello, this is the Barefoot Ginger. I am going to start this in my office and then I'll probably have a different location because it is pretty close to me going home. I'm putting this pretty close right here. Sorry for the movement. Okay, I'm done. Sorry about that. I just needed to move it to a different location. I have this really cool phone stand for my desk, so I think this will work out really well. What I wanted to talk about today, I've made a couple videos that I haven't really liked. It seemed a little whiny. So, I am going to hit this topic from a completely different perspective. And I've been thinking about what I can do and say that's meaningful. Because there was an event that happened in my family that was quite traumatic. And it affected me. It affected the relationships that I have with many family members. I was used as the fall guy. I was asked for some advice, and then that advice I gave was not reciprocated, which is fine. I never give advice with the expectation that people are going to use it or even acknowledge that I gave it to them. I don't care. That's not what I'm talking about. I was vilified and eventually shunned from this person's life. Because not only did they not want to take the advice I gave, but as a result of them not taking my advice, I made some boundary decisions for myself that this person didn't like. So this has been heavy on my mind for a really long time since it happened. What did I do? What was my role? Could I have done better? And so this is going to be about codependency. Because at the heart of what happened, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about the scenario itself and not specifics, but at the heart of what happened was codependency. So codependency is something that we hear a lot about, but do we really understand the definition of codependency? So the definition, sorry, I got distracted by a coworker waving at me through the window. The window's right over there. So the definition of codependency is just kind of a loose one. So this one is, I just pulled it, don't come for me. I just pulled it from Wikipedia because I just wanted a working definition. It just says it's a theory that involves imbalanced relationships where one person enables another person's self-destructive behavior. And I really like that. You know, things like addiction, poor mental health, immaturity, irresponsibility, or underachievement. And it could go even deeper. It could go into things like inappropriate sexual relationships with spouses or significant others, children, all those things. So I really like this working definition. So that's what codependency is. An imbalanced relationship where one person enables another person's self-destructive behavior. So now that we know what codependency is, let's talk about what it looks like. So the first one is that you are overly concerned about what the other person is doing, thinking, and feeling. You worry that if you don't take care of them, something bad will happen. So that's when the well-meaning, for example, these are all examples, right? I'll get into the story, you'll know the difference. So, for example, a mother that always hovers, that is constantly calling her adult children, making sure that they have enough to eat, that they're warm enough, that they have enough money to pay their bills. And that's a form of codependency because you're not emotionally mature enough to let adult children live their own lives. So, and in this case, in the case that I'm referring to with the scenario that happened with me that I mentioned at the beginning, we see an adult family member of mine who has mental health issues. So that's part of it, is mental health. Who has really relied on several adult family members in her world to help her make all of her decisions. So she's super reliant on all of the adult females in her world to help shape her life choices. And then her husband is on the spectrum. So what does that mean? Well, to me, it doesn't really mean anything unless you understand that people on the spectrum sometimes struggle with recognizing social cues, recognizing emotional cues, recognizing inappropriate behavior. So we have all of these people descended in her life trying to help her, but at the same time, we veered off into codependency. Now, the one adult female has always been codependent. She is the ultimate enabler. She has enabled almost all of my siblings, and maybe me even. I'm not going to say that I'm perfect. I'm sure that there have been times in my life when, I have relied on her for unhealthy reasons. So we have that. That's one. And then the second one is the relationship is one-sided. You make excuses for the other person's poor choices. Oh, well, she didn't mean to run into that guardrail. She was really tired. When really she was drunk and it was a DUI or something along those lines. Or two siblings get into a fight and the parent excuses one person's behavior as, oh, she didn't mean what she said, or he didn't mean what he said. That's codependency. The third one is you sacrifice everything you are to make another person happy. So let's just break that down and see what that means. What does that mean? That means that you're not doing any self-care. You're not recognizing when you need to take a break, when your mental health might be struggling, when the energy that you're giving, you're not receiving. And when I say energy, I mean not magical energy, but just like the energy that life takes. For example, if I spend a lot of energy putting makeup on my face, dressing really well for our anniversary, and he comes out wearing a t-shirt and blue jeans and doesn't acknowledge how good I smell and how good I look. And this happens consistently. I'm spending more energy than I'm getting back. My energy tank isn't getting full. And the person also sacrifices their health, their time, their energy, their money, their value, their goals, or friendships. When your world only revolves around one person and all of these things are being sacrificed, that's a sign of codependency. Number 4 is you're walking on eggshells. You have to worry about their feelings, their opinions, their thoughts. And to avoid conflict, you say yes to things that you shouldn't say yes to, or that you don't want to, or that don't align with your values and goals. Number 5, you act like a martyr, taking care of everyone and everything, but resentful that no one helps you. That kind of piggybacks on number 3 with the sacrificing yourself. Those two should be side by side. Number 6, your need to fix or rescue becomes controlling. So this is kind of where right now I'm going to pause and tell the story. You know what? I'm going to just keep going through all of these and then I'll go back through the story as I hit each bullet point again specifically. So we left off on number 6. Your need to fix or rescue becomes controlling. Nagging, so this looks like criticism, nagging, unsolicited advice, ultimatums. And I'm not just talking about in general in life when we're all trying to figure stuff out. I'm talking about in every single day. There are times when I nag my husband, and that's not okay, but that's not the same thing as the continual ongoing barrage of nagging, controlling, just all the things. Number 8 is you spend more time taking care of yourself, taking care of others than yourself. So you have a hobby that you love to do. You love to crochet. So that's what you love to do. So while you're sitting around talking to people or watching a movie or a Netflix special, you crochet. But when you're codependent, your hobbies get put in second place because you take care of somebody else. So again, we talked about self-care earlier. You neglect self-care. You feel guilty for doing self-care. Like yesterday, I went to get a mani-pedi, and there's nothing selfish about that. I don't feel selfish about spending $120. I don't. It was refreshing for me. It recharged what I needed to be recharged, and I'm not sorry. I don't think I'm a candidate for being codependent. I think we all have codependent tendencies, but I don't think I'm codependent. Number 9, you're afraid of being rejected, criticized, or abandoned. This is the crux. I see why this one is number 9, because this is like the base for the cake, the codependent, the big ugly codependent cake, but the base is rejection. At the heart of the matter, it's all about rejection. And number 10, piggybacking on rejection, you feel resentful, frustrated, taken advantage of, or unfulfilled. So those are the 10 ways that we can spot codependent behavior. I'm not saying go out and diagnose people with codependency in your family or your friends or your relationships. What I'm saying is this is going to give us an opportunity to recognize it in our everyday lives, in our working relationships, in our personal relationships. We can recognize when we see a behavior, when we see a pattern of behavior, when we see people behaving the way they do. We can pull this out and we can say, oh, you're acting like a martyr. What does that mean? It means that you're going to throw yourself on a problem to fix it. You're going to take care of everyone. You're going to run around like a crazy chicken solving everybody's problems. Because look how good I am. I can do this. You know, unsolicited advice. I have a sister who loves unsolicited advice. And you have to listen for hours as she regales you with why her advice is so fantastic. Continuing a relationship after another person has repeatedly hurt you, physically, emotionally, and financially. This one is really, really common with domestic violence survivors. We stay when we shouldn't. Even when intellectually we know we shouldn't, we stay. So those are the 10 recognizable signs that you either are codependent or that you're surrounded by a person who has these codependency traits. So now I want to talk about what happened. And as I talk about what happened, I'm going to juxtapose. I wrote these down, my chicken scratch. So I'm going to take these with me because I am clocking out in a few minutes. But I don't want to end this conversation. I want to keep the momentum going as we... Okay, so we've talked about the 10 signs of codependency. And so I'm going to tell a story, and I am going to interweave those 10 warning signs of codependency because it's important. There's a reason that I picked this topic to focus on when I tell this story, because part of what I want to do in my YouTube journey is empower people. So how do I empower people? I teach through experience and common sense. I'm not a therapist. None of this is designed to be psychiatric advice or diagnoses. These are just common things that anyone can Google, and as you're looking back with this list, you can look at some of the relationships with your people, with your tribe, and recognize them for what it is. So this story goes as follows. Several weeks ago, before I tell the story, I just want to I'm turning left, so I'm going to turn my head a lot while I'm talking. I have a family member who is in her early 30s, and she has struggled historically with some form of mental health issue. I'm just going to leave it there. Sometimes it's a big struggle. Sometimes the diagnosis changes, gets amended, added to, medications changed, all those things, right? So, having said that, this person that I'm going to talk about has some pretty serious mental health struggles. So, this young female family member called me on the phone, and she was in hysterics. She, as part of her mental health struggles, she's had a service dog, a little black, I don't know, he's a lab border collie mix. He's got some other stuff in him, but he's pretty little. When he was trying and working as her service dog, he was probably, that noise is my car AC. It's 87 degrees in my car right now, so bear with me. And the radio, that's better. Sorry guys, I didn't realize that was all that background noise. I apologize. That was really hard to hear. He was her service dog. And even when he was a service dog, even he has not been a nice dog. He's always been aggressive. He was rehomed as a puppy because he was attacking his litter mates on the farm. So the farmer didn't want him. So that's red flag number one. And then he's just unable to go to the vet. He has to be muzzled. He has bitten prior to this incident, exclusive of this incident. He has lunged at people's hands and feet. He chases my sister's kitten. She's had several cats. The one cat now has to be locked in the bedroom because he's gone after her. And he has bitten a child who is neurodivergent, who is on the ASD spectrum. That's the autism spectrum disorder. And we know that children on the spectrum struggle with appropriate behavior with animals. We know this. It's no secret. It's not his fault. He was blamed for the reason the dog bit him as being a jerk. A child, an autistic child, was allowed by the adults in his life to be abused and victimized by an animal and blame it on his disability. So that's going to sink in while I tell the story. So back to present day. So this young lady called me and she was frantic because she knew that I had worked as an animal nurse in a previous life. I used to be an animal technician, a vet tech. And so she called me for advice. And she told me what happened. She told me that completely unprovoked, this service dog leapt across the room while her daughter was sitting on Grandma's lap reading a book and bit her on the face, breaking the skin, coming dangerously close to biting her eye. And she needed my advice. The first thing I thought was a bullet is 12 cents, but I didn't say it. I did tell her that the first order of business was to secure the dog. Keep the people safe from the dog while we figure out what the next steps are. I did say that because this was the second incident of a dog specifically targeting a child, I was concerned that this dog might need to be euthanized. And that was my advice, was euthanize the dog. Our city doesn't have animal control. They rely on law enforcement. And it's a crapshoot, and law enforcement gave her bad advice. So she called law enforcement. They said, no, he doesn't need to be euthanized. The Humane Society wouldn't euthanize him, and the emergency vet clinic, the 24-hour clinic in my city, wouldn't euthanize him. Nobody thought he was a vicious dog, but he meets the Idaho code for vicious dog. Dangerous dog. Well, it doesn't really say vicious, it just says dangerous. He meets the code for dangerous dog. But nobody is willing, so we have 3 authority figures: law enforcement, the Humane Society, and the emergency vet clinic, who all refuse to even consider euthanizing this dog. The one emergency clinic did say that he needed to have an exam, which never happened, but nonetheless, he needed to have an exam and be evaluated for any possible psychological or neurological problems. Now, guys, I can tell you, as a former animal technician, it is incredibly hard to diagnose an animal with a purely psychological disorder. It takes weeks. We did do it with one animal, and we did end up providing it some antidepressants. It was a cream that we smeared on his ears. But it took us probably 6 months through blood tests and other kinds of workups, x-rays, and ruling out any and all disease process, ruling out diabetes, ruling out kidney disease, ruling out knee pain, because all of those things can alter an animal's personality because they can't vocalize it to us like we can. Anyway, so it is possible, but it's highly, highly rare that you actually can do it the same as a person, because a person can sit down with a licensed professional and say, I'm feeling all these ways, and it's been this long, and these are the things I've tried, and nothing's working, and I really just want to, bite a dog. I'm just kidding. That was a really bad joke. So you can't do that with animals, and most people don't take the time or the financial energy to delve that deeply into an animal's an animal's mental wellness. It just doesn't happen. For the vast majority of people who own animals, the animals hold a high level of value in their world, but it's a different kind of value. Like, I hear people saying animals are people too. Animals aren't people. Animals are animal. And the people who say animals are people too, there's nothing wrong with them. They value their animals on the same playing field as their children, which I think in and of itself can lead to some problematic behavior such as this, because this is how she feels. Anyway, long story. So law enforcement, aka animal control, aka law enforcement, told her that they didn't think it rose to the level of immediate euthanasia, because law enforcement does have the ability, they have the legal authority and the training to euthanize animals. And they carry, it's not always a shotgun, they can use, chemical sedation. Most law enforcement carry a euthanasia kit with them in their cars. For situations like, maybe getting hit by a car and they need to be put down right away, or whatever the case may be. I think it's a valuable skill for a law enforcement to be able to end an animal suffering if they did get run over and their back legs don't work, or whatever, right? They fall out and they have a brain injury or whatever. I think it's a valuable resource that people don't want to talk about. People don't want to talk about euthanizing animals because it seems sad, and it seems like, oh, but they're cute little four-legged floofies. But we have to consider that they do hold a different value, and they hold, I'm not saying less of a value because they're animals, but they are different values. They are at the end of the day animals. Anywho, so law enforcement told her, just isolate the dog, get him some training, get him a medical exam, and they literally left it at that. So here's this young lady who has mental illness. The dog lives with this young lady's aging grandparents that are very close to 80 years old, that are both diabetic. One is a fall risk. So they definitely have their physical and their physical challenges. They have medical challenges and they have physical challenges. If a dog bites a diabetic person, it could be catastrophic. So he doesn't go for walks because Grandma and Grandpa can't walk him. He's a jerk on a leash. He chases, he pulls, he doesn't listen, he doesn't heel, he doesn't do all of the things that he used to know how to do, but since he stopped being a service dog, it's like he got forgotten about. So this is like the perfect storm for this dog, and it's the perfect storm for the codependent individuals who are supporting this dog in his retirement. So, number 2 says, the relationship is consistently one-sided. And so this relationship with this dog is one-sided. It's all about the dog. So everybody has validated that this dog is not dangerous. So she texted me the next morning and notified me that the decision was final, that they would not be putting him down, that they would be isolating him from all contact when people come to visit, and that they would be seeking the assistance of a trainer, which nobody's done. He hasn't had a medical exam, he hasn't had a neurologic exam, he hasn't seen a trainer. Even his service dog trainer, when she first met the service dog trainer, and the service dog trainer assessed this dog's temperament, the service dog trainer said that this dog did not have the temperament for a service dog. But against her better wishes, they trained the dog anyway. So everybody's enabling this dog and this young lady. Everybody. Her grandparents, her mother, the dog trainer, the vet, law enforcement, everybody is enabling this young lady. So when she told me her decision, I said, well, that's your decision. I'm not gonna have a discussion about it. It's your decision. I'm also not going to discuss my decision, and my decision is that I need to keep my family safe, and my family will not even be stepping foot on the property as long as a dangerous dog lives there. And that means my minor granddaughter, because it's my legal obligation to keep her safe. And so that just kicked off a firestorm of ad hominem attacks on my character, and how dare I be so contemptuous and hateful and judgmental. I had no right. She spent a lot of energy defending me to the family. You know, all those things. And then she said I'm not safe, meaning I'm not emotionally safe for her to spend any more time on. So, spit spot, she's washed her hands of me because I told her that her dog was dangerous and I didn't want any part of it. So the next day after the dog bite occurred, she did take the baby to the doctor, and the doctor did to urgent care that night, and the doctor did validate that it's a good thing that they did get her checked out, because the dog bite was very near to her eye. So they were grateful for that. They put her on an antibiotic and gave her a cream. So I am grateful that they did that. The dog is now, the child, the sweet 3-year-old little child, is now afraid of dogs. This dog. Not because the dog bit her on the face. Oh no, that's not why she's afraid. She's afraid because all the people around her created all this drama about the incident itself. So let's think about what that logic looks like with regard to our list of 10 signs. Number one, we're walking on eggshells. Nobody's talking about it because they can't. So they're walking on eggshells to keep her emotional health safe. You're spending more time taking care of her emotional needs. And then we try to fix it even when we've been hurt. So that's kind of the one when I was reading through this list of 10 signs. So that's kind of one of the ones that I landed on right away I really landed on all of them because some things have happened since that incident and since she's kind of divorced me from her life. I go on. My life goes on. I don't share things with my family like I used to because I don't trust them, and right now I don't even really like them. Maybe that'll change, but right now I don't have a desire to be around them because I don't like them. But also, something that's happened since the dog bite that has just further solidified that my family is just one giant ball of codependent energy. So on Memorial Day, the day that we went up to the mountains to spend a couple days resting and refreshing and getting to know each other and reconnecting, there was a barbecue at one of my sister's house. I have many sisters, 3 to be exact. So Grandma and Grandpa brought the vicious dog to the barbecue without a second thought. They didn't even expect that there was going to be a problem. I have to take a big deep breath before I tell the rest of the story. So, what happened? Well, when all the families with young children in them, except one, there was one exception. And I'll tell you who that exception was. They all bailed on the barbecue. The exception to the rule, the exception to the young families who stayed, were my one sister with his first victim, my young nephew. And it's been several years. So, let's recap. 2 dog bites, 2 children. The first victim was blamed. He instigated. He provoked. He antagonized. Well, I have a whole thing about that. That, somebody who is that young and who has a neurologically divergent disability doesn't have the ability to understand right from wrong. So therefore, the cause and effect hasn't been perfected yet, if you will. So I would posit that you can't provoke a dog if you are an innocent child. Provoking means malice aforethought. Provoking means doing something deliberately and knowingly to elicit a negative response. That's a provocation. If I know that my neighbor doesn't want me on his property and I continually step onto his grass knowing that he might come beat me up, and then when he does beat me up and I call the police and say that he beat me up, the police are going to say, oh, well, you provoked him. Because I knew that stepping on his grass after he's asked me repeatedly to please not come on his property might elicit a negative response. That's provocation. A small child, and I want to say he was 6 or 7, who has a pretty, I would say, mild to moderate form of autism, can't provoke a dog. He can be mean. Pulling a dog's tail is mean. But is he pulling the dog's tail for the purpose of getting a reaction? Because that's provocation. Or is he pulling the dog's tail because, number one, the adults in his life aren't paying attention to him. They should have never let him get that close to the dog anyway. The second he pulled the dog's tail, he should have been kept from the dog. Not the dog kept from him and all the other adults, but he should have been kept from the dog until he could show that he had the maturity enough to understand how to behave appropriately around all dogs. Not just this dog, but around all dogs. So there's that. So Grandma and Grandpa bring the dog to a family barbecue. And what do they do with said dog? They tie him to a tree in the backyard. That happened. That really honestly happened. They tie him to a tree. Yep. But that's not the end of the story. They were okay with not seeing their grandkids. So they value the dog's life above the relationships that they have with other family members. What codependency is that? Well, it could be one. The relationship is consistently one-sided. It also, it could be all of them at the end of the day. It really could. Continue the relationship after being hurt. Spending more time taking care of others, feeling resentment, no. Afraid of rejection. I don't know, maybe they're afraid of rejection. I'm trying to figure out where to put this, because why would they bring... They knew that this dog bit a 3-year-old in an unprovoked attack. So even if there was only one incident, they knew that they were taking this animal to an uncontrollable situation. When you take an animal into an environment that you can't control, you run the risk with any animal, even well-trained animals. There are environmental factors that you can't control. Maybe there's a cat in the yard. Maybe, they smell something. There's a person there that they don't like, because dogs are really good judges of personal character. Who knows? And the more people that are there, the harder it is to control the animal. So this is just animal science, basic animal science 101, all right? You have to be able to control you have to know what your dog is going to do in every single scenario. And you have to trust that reaction will not change, no matter how many people come into the environment. Whether it's too hot, whether it's too cold, whether it's raining, whether it's snowing, whether it's whatever the case may be, whether there's 5 people or 25 people, whether it starts out with 5 people and ends up with 20 people, the noise level, all sorts of external stimuli affect the ability to properly control an animal's behavior. Not going to dispute that, not going to discuss it. That is something that is pretty easy with animal behavior and animal science. So they tied this dog to the tree. Several family members chose not to come over because they didn't want this dog to go after their children, which apparently I learned later on that he had lunged after a baby that's, I don't know, she was between 1 and 2. And they were able to grab the baby out of the way before something happened. So this dog, pardon my French, you guys, is an asshole. He's aggressive, and he's not even fun to be around. Like, he doesn't do cool tricks, he doesn't fetch, he doesn't play frisbee, he doesn't go on walks, he doesn't play ball. he doesn't engage with he just is a big fat coffee table with legs and just stays in his home obsessing and getting more and more territorial. So it's like, pardon the pun, it's a bad pun, the tail wagging the dog. You know, you've got a mean dog because he doesn't socialize, but you don't socialize him because he's mean, right? How do you break the cycle? You can't, not with this dog, and not with the people he's living with, and not with the environment in which he lives. You cannot. So there's that. And after, so they have the dog chained to the tree. And guess who goes after him? The same young man who got bit many years ago. Goes after him and tries to pull his tail. And guess what happens? He doesn't get bit. He doesn't get bit. I will say that. There was no biting involved this time. However, he got blamed. So we have a long history of victims being blamed. So in addition to codependency, we have a lot of other things going on that are parallel and side by side, right? That I can't really divulge because I don't have the training. I can talk about some of the things loosely maybe later. So we have this giant ball of codependent energy that continues to make bad choices. So the grandparents are sacrificing their relationships with their, like, I'm one of their children. They're sacrificing their relationship with me. They're sacrificing the relationship with their other grandchildren. They're sacrificing the relationship with their great-grandchildren for a dog. For a mean dog. Now, if this dog was just being picked on, if the family members had just gotten together and just decided, oh, he barked at a baby once and now we're coming for him, okay, I can understand. Maybe there's some misinterpretation of dog body language and there's a conversation. Look, there's no conversation. There's no justification. Why are we spending so much energy defending and protecting a dangerous animal? Because now when someone comes over, they have to keep that dog locked in a bedroom or a backyard. Well, if family members come over who want to play in the backyard, because there's swings and picnic tables, and who doesn't want to play in a grandma and grandpa's backyard, right? Then the dog has to get locked in a bedroom. But it's not really locked in a bedroom, it's just in the bedroom, and all it's going to take is one turn of the doorknob and opening the door, and that dog is now not secure. Same in the backyard. Even if the glass slider is closed, it's really easy to just flip up that latch and open the glass slider, and the dog is no longer secure. So the idea that anyone can keep people safe from this dog is a different conversation. But right now I'm struggling to find a person who wants to keep people safe. Because if you wanted to keep people safe from this dog, you would know what the right decision was. Right? You would know that this dog can no longer be safe with people, ever. Even if you were to rehome him, he's gone after my mom. He's gone after her hands. He's tried to bite her, and she's a diabetic. He hasn't bitten her, but he's tried. I remember several conversations where she tells me that he lunged after her. He hits their plate glass window with a vengeance when he sees a cat outside, and it's not just an excited, come here and play with me. It's, I want to eat you. And so as I'm wrapping up this lesson in codependency, here's the takeaway: is don't be afraid to do some research. Don't be afraid to say, this isn't right. There's something that doesn't feel right about this scenario. So what am I going to do? I'm going to look outside myself. I'm going to talk to other people. If I have a therapist, I might reach out to a therapist. I might call the police department and ask them what their thought process was. Give them your lived experience. Reach out to Dr. Google, because you can find some good information. Websites like Psychology Today, WebMD, even Wikipedia for a general overview of a topic so that you can start researching deeper is fine. And that's all I did. I got all of this information from Psychology Today. The 10 signs that you might be codependent. And this is just good information to know. So I'm going to go over one more time at the end. Number 1, overly concerned about what another person is thinking or feeling. So yeah, we see that with, the situation. Number 2, relationship is consistently one-sided. You enable and justify a person's bad choices and excuses for the other person. Enable and make excuses for the other person's poor choices. Number 3, you sacrifice yourself to make another person happy. You sacrifice money, value, goals, relationships. Number 4, you walk on eggshells. You have to watch out for their feelings. You have to tiptoe around their feelings. Number 5, you act like and then I didn't finish it. That's fantastic. Go me. Number 6, you want to fix it at the exclusion of other things. So you're now a fixer. And I think with this one, I just wrote the word fix. And I think with this one, it's like you're constantly in their face, unsolicited advice. Number 7 is you continue the relationship despite being hurt. So in this situation, everybody is continuing the relationship with the dog, even though they've been hurt. And they're continuing the relationship, and they are excusing the behavior of the people who are protecting a vicious animal. Number 8, they spend more time taking care of others. Number 9, you're afraid of rejection, abandonment. And number 10, feel resentment. So all of those things also play into my overarching topic of religious indoctrination as well, because you can see how they're all interweaved, and it's like this giant spider web in our brain, and we tend to get lost in all of these unhealthy dynamics. So just remember this. It's an unhealthy dynamic. You're going to know it's an unhealthy dynamic. You might not know why or how, but something niggles in your brain that says it's unhealthy. And that's all you need to start. Like in my situation, I did have some professional training. I did work with animal behaviors. I'd spent 10 years, working in the field of animal husbandry. So I had a better understanding of dog behavior. I don't have a professional degree in people behavior, but I did know that something was wrong, right? I did right away recognize that there are people that are actively protecting this animal. I saw a squirrel. I actually did see a squirrel. That's funny. And nobody wants to fix it. And so that's kind of where I'm struggling right now. Is nobody cares to fix it. Are they walking on eggshells? Or is it cognitive dissonance? I don't know. But it is disturbing. It is disturbing. And this one is long. This one is at 49 minutes. So I better end this because I want to keep it under an hour. It's long. I talked a lot. I hope that what I shared had value. You have value. You're loved. You're worthy. We'll talk later. Barefoot Ginger, signing off.